Hello and welcome to the second episode of Point of Purchase. My name is Isaac Wanzama. I'm the founder and chief strategist at eCommerce. Today's topic is 123 Reset, and it's about redefining e-commerce priorities in a pandemic. If you're joining us from Facebook, thank you so much for tuning in. Let us know where you're watching from. Drop us some messages in the chat. Let us know where you are. A little bit about Point of Purchase. It's a new stream that we established here at eCommerce. And the intent is really to get this conversation going around e-commerce and around retail and all the things that are happening there. We will share industry news, certainly talk about technology, some of the best practices. We'll share our own insight, obviously, as an e-commerce agency that does a lot of work with a range of customers in the space. But we also bring in experts and people who are on the front line and the spectrum of this conversation. Join us every 2 weeks or so to watch Point of Purchase live on Facebook and a number of the other platforms as well. If you do have questions for myself or guests, feel free to drop those in the chat. I will try to take those up before the end of the show. With that, I'd like to welcome our guest today. We're really happy to have Chris Parsons. He's the director of e-commerce at one of Canada's most iconic brands, Home Hardware. Chris, how are you? Thanks for joining.
Hey, Isaac, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Fantastic. And again, a quick reminder, if you do have questions for myself or Chris as we go through this conversation today, which is going to be an awesome one, feel free to join. So with that, Chris, let me read your bio. And for the benefit of everybody not miss anything here, I'm just going to read it word for word. Chris is a digital marketing expert and well-known in Canada for launching a number of brands. With 15 years of experience, Chris was a key member of the leadership team at Walmart.ca during the launch of Walmart.ca, and we're part of that. Chris's other accolades include work in the pet category, where he grew sales for Big L and Ren's Pets Online while working with a range of teams. Chris also worked for Newegg.ca as country manager and launched 8 global markets for the organization, so kudos on that. And currently, as I mentioned, Chris is the director of e-commerce at Home Hardware, where he's responsible for strategic direction and also online digital strategy. Chris, that's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. I mean, it's been a really crazy ride. I've had the opportunity to learn from a ton of great people in the industry. So that background just brings back some great memories.
No, absolutely. I mean, today's conversation is all about redefining and resetting priorities. Let's dig in a little bit. What is your story? How did you get started in e-commerce? Obviously, it's been quite a journey.
Yeah, well, everyone needs a break and a mentor. I was lucky to have some great mentors. So Lou Hume at Walmart gave me my first break into e-commerce. And if one day I'll write a book about this, is basically I walked into a meeting late and Lou said, we need a website for Walmart Canada.
Right.
And I want you to take on this project. And that night I went to Cole's bookstore. I got a book, HTML for Dummies.
Right.
I flew to Bentonville for 3 days of HTML training. When I got back, my laptop had Dreamweaver installed on it and started coding Walmart Canada's first website in 2004.
Oh, that's an awesome start. And from that time, it kind of seems like that's kind of when you and I kind of connected and you started working with GS on some of those early efforts.
Yeah, I mean, we met back 2006 or so, 2007, when finally the direction of retail started to shift its mindset from bricks and mortar to some kind of an integrated experience with customers. Specifically, Walmart in that day was looking at launching Sam's Clubs, some bigger format stores, 100,000 plus square foot stores, and then finally, e-commerce and the traffic that Walmart's brand brought to the website was significant enough for a larger investment versus me just coding from a book. And we were fortunate to partner with you and start really focusing on content. Content was the driving factor behind getting a lot of traffic to our website.
Absolutely, and it seems like kind of the path a lot of people took. Now we're going to dig into a lot of that, Chris, but I just want to kind of find a little bit more about you. Obviously, we know you as an executive, given the bio we just read out. You've done a lot of work, but you're also a business owner yourself, which is, to me, is quite interesting. Tell us about Hockey Socks.
Yeah, Hockey Socks was really brought on from my 12-year-old son. He's turning 13 next month. He plays rep hockey, and he's been leveraging some protective equipment through different brands. And the socks all have Kevlar in them. And Kevlar is a really abrasive material that's interwoven into socks to help make sure that they're cut resistant or cut proof. And basically, he wanted me. He thought, I know everybody in the industry. So he said, why can't you make some socks, Dad, that are more comfortable?
Right.
And sure enough, I reached out to contacts on LinkedIn, finally connected with a gentleman, Daniel at Tristec, and we started having conversations about how to make the best sock possible. And we have seamless toe. These things might not mean much to most of the audience, but bamboo, so it reduces smell, seamless toe, and then arch support in the arches, and then finally a material that helps it be cool throughout and that's part of the bamboo, but cool as you wear them. And then the most important piece is the cut resistant technology that's in them. And yeah, we've had a lot of fun with this. Hopefully my son one day will not be flipping burgers, and he can take this on to generate his income, and I can stop funding his future.
His soccer team. I probably learned a lot more about hockey socks than I planned to. So to me, it's very interesting because here you got your hands both as a small business owner driving an e-commerce environment, but also you're obviously leading very large teams. You know, some of our views obviously are different spectrums in those conversations. How are the two the same? How are they different when it comes to e-commerce, small and large?
Yeah, well, from the small businesses that I've worked at, I think the key when I get into a lot of them is there's not a great focus on KPIs and metrics to drive your business. You have to be numbers focused to have success in e-commerce. And even here, I can honestly say that the numbers from an e-commerce perspective were not measured and not really something that we just want to produce content where we want to produce a banner and have a homepage look good, but the conversion rate and the click-through rates on emails and et cetera were not a primary focus. But with Walmart, numbers were something you needed to have your numbers in your mind ready for. If you were in an elevator with Mario Palazzi or David Cheesewright or any of these guys, you had to have your numbers and understand what levers you can pull to take it to the next level all the time. So that was something that stuck with me, and every business that I've been at since, it's been a focus on the numbers and how they drive business.
Right. It seems like you're saying that KPIs and measurements is really how you're going to drive success and even know where you're there or not. How does somebody even start? How do retailers begin doing that?
Well, you don't need a lot. I mean, ultimately, every website can get the free analytics from Google and start putting some codes on your site. But ultimately, it's if you've got bricks and mortars tied to your business, the POS data is essential to the numbers coming in and understanding your customers and their journey and how they shop with you. So there's a lot of data points that, and sometimes there's too much data, and it's how to get that data to be digestible and take those nuggets out of it.
Right.
And we've had this conversation internally. There's a big need for data scientists, but a lot of times I want someone that can glean the insights out of the data. That's more important to me than the data itself.
Absolutely, it's not just about gathering. That's an interesting point. So here we are. I mean, 20 years in retail, quite a bit of that time spent around e-com. Where did you really begin to see the shift in e-commerce happened, and what were the priorities then?
Well, this is where I'm going to age myself because I'm going to point out a few different years that
I'm wearing on instead, so it's okay.
That's right. 2004, obviously, when I started with Walmart on the e-commerce roadmap, was a moment where a lot of major retailers were dabbling in it. Some opened up, some closed down a year after. Toys R Us had some great success around that time, but it was proven that it was something that was starting to bubble to the surface. In 2012, as you mentioned, I started working for Newegg. I had a great opportunity to go to a global summit in New York City, and when I got to there, I was a guest speaker to speak about the Canadian market. And what I found interesting was all of these major retailers from Macy's and Walmart, and you name the brands that go on and on that were at the conference. They were all speaking of Canada as a global market, and I didn't feel that way. I thought we were North American, and but what was interesting from that meeting in 2012 and me speaking there was how many retailers were interested in coming into the Canadian market. They saw it as a sandbox, an area where they can test and learn. There was a lot of similarities, and they were willing to invest in Canada. So where I really saw a big change in mindset was about 2012.
Right, and it sounds like the priorities at that time was really just about expansion and sort of entering new markets.
Yep.
Right. Absolutely. So, I mean, we move now to 2020. Obviously, a lot has changed. all the plans that everybody had in 2019 for 2020 are very different from what they are now. In shifting during this period of time, what are the priorities now, and how is home hardware beginning to address some of these?
Well, from a home hardware perspective, the nice thing is that we're locally owned. We're generally Canadian company that we're really a store of the community. And what was great throughout the changing of priorities was to really see how we benefit the local communities and consumers in each of those markets.
Right.
With that type of insight coming in and feedback on a regular basis, whether it was through our social channels or customer service numbers, about how important we were, it was to see that we were essential for the general need for consumer. We weren't just there for decks.
Right.
Was if someone's toilet broke down, they needed support. Otherwise, things get quite messy.
Right.
During that time frame, it was eye-opening, especially because maybe not for some of the veterans here, but
Right.
because I've only been with the company for a year now, and understanding our importance in the marketplace was some clarity that was of value. And that pandemic time frame, that when it just started, was really eye-opening on how we shift. And the learnings that you get when you're thrown into it sometimes, where it's a great valuable lessons. I can tell you that I was really proud of the whole organization during this time frame, specifically from our leadership with Kevin and my boss Rob Wallace, but also right down to every member on my team and how they were able to react.
On there, and you made a very interesting point there around the need to change and sort of innovate when you're forced to. You've got almost 1,100 stores, 5,000 employees, imagine. So that's a fairly large size company. Mm-hmm. How does a company like that even pivot? Because is there a time where you're too big or you move too slow, kind of thing?
From a pivot perspective, I jokingly say it was more like a Swiss chalet rotisserie. Every day we were turning and pivoting. It is a great time frame video I wish I could share with you, but basically from the moment that it really started to take effect, from my perspective, I sent my team home right away. They're all allowed to work from home. It was easy from an e-commerce perspective. We're digital. We can do that off a laptop. We can access everything. But this organization was really impressive. Within 2 weeks, we were able to get staff that was pretty much accustomed to working from an office space for many years, and have all of them with access to work from home.
Right.
With the implementation of Teams and other tools, it's been a pleasure. And the company was really focused on safety, which was something that Kevin and the leadership team was a big proponent of. We wanted to make sure that our associates, both at the office and at store level, were in a secure working environment, and that was their goal from the day one.
Right, and I think those are all certainly very, very important priorities given where things were.
Yep.
Now, an interesting question here. I mean, the name of this stream is called Point of Purchase, and now we've seen that evolve. Obviously, for the amount of time you and I have both been in this industry, it was in store, and then it was omnichannel, and it was both. Now we're seeing it on social become the point of purchase. Any comments on that in terms of how that's kind of just changed and continues to change?
Well, it's funny that you say it's changing. I always find, and God, we've probably had this discussion 100 times. To me, it's about the 3 C's: content, community, commerce. Content first. Make sure that you're a knowledge center for your customers. Allow them to research. Allow them to see you as an authority of products. Then the community starts to happen when people can have a good experience with your brand on the whether it's a hard sell or whether it's more of here's how information on how to build a deck, or just any of that soft sell type of communication. But if you can become that resource, people start to share that information and say, this retailer is adding value to my day-to-day, whether it's their work, to their projects, whatever. Once you have that, things start to really bubble up, and that's when commerce starts to happen. Now, from a commerce perspective, whether it's mobile, social, in-store, online, those are all becoming a blend. Customers shop based on where they are at the moment, conversations with friends. Me, I love to couch surf. So as I'm watching a Netflix, I am probably the most active when it shopper during that time.
Right.
You can never ask me the name of a character on the show because I won't be able to tell you. I enjoy the show, but typically I was shopping during that time.
No, absolutely, and I think that that's the nature of what just shopping is right now. It just takes place wherever your customer is, and I think that the importance is to meet them there. when they're ready. Now, probably a good adjunct to that is, the role of technology. What do you see continue to happen? I mean, obviously, there's been the emergence of artificial intelligence. We start talking about augmented experiences to help, customers still have the experience in sort of a virtual way. Any comments on where you see that going and really supporting the shopper's journey?
Yeah, where I see it going is, God, how many of you have an Amazon device or a Google device where you can just speak to it and get all the answers?
Right.
Working on a deck, and if I'm short on some screws, to be able to just say, "Hey Google, order me some screws," and have them delivered is, I think, look, as I say that, my phone goes off. But yeah, I think voice is going to play a big role. Definitely artificial intelligence. We're launching a unified platform, and part of that unified platform is this technology, Certona, for our search. It's nothing new in the industry. A lot of players use them, but it's a machine learning search, and it allows for a better experience. All of those tools will help with personalization, and I think that's the key where all retail is still struggling with personalization. I went out and bought a barbecue today from, you name the competitor. Tomorrow I would get an email about, "Hey, do you want to buy a barbecue?" Even though I've just purchased one. So we all have to get better at that, and being aligned across the shopping journey of a customer, and make sure that we're messaging them what the accessories are, or just, if they bought a barbecue, what are the meals that they could start thinking about when they use that barbecue.
Right. Now, obviously, we're in July right now. We're going into probably the biggest sales cycle for retailers in all categories over the next 2 quarters into holiday. Conversation is it going to be the same? Is it going to be different? There's typically folks who will be getting ready for back to school that are thinking different. How does holiday look, and how does that preparation look for your team?
It's a good conversation that we've been having internally. You saw announcements from Walmart stopping with their Black Friday in-store sales in the US. And what does that look like for us? I think digital is going to play a huge role. Customers are still nervous about shopping in big crowds. That will likely continue, and a lot of people are predicting we'll hit another wave of COVID during that time frame. So I think the ultimate things you have to look at is being prepared from a logistics perspective. It came across as a surprise on how much the increase happened during COVID when it first happened. I don't think anyone's warehouses were ready for that type of lift.
Right.
But I don't think anyone wants to be caught off guard with it again. So finding whether it's a partner with 3PL or making sure your own logistics center has some improvements is got to be a focus. And then, just thinking about what type of retailer do you want to be? How much traffic do you really want to be driving to store, as we don't have a vaccine?
Right.
Are we a steward of the community? Do we want to have this blend of how promotional do we really want to be? We got a business to run, but how promotional do we want to be? And is it the concern for our customers and our staff has to come to the forefront?
Right, absolutely. And it still seems like there's a lot of sort of real-time decisions to be made depending on what the news cycle looks like. We hear about vaccines coming, then not coming, and being far away. So I'm sure that's a lot of what's part of your conversation.
Yeah, Rob Wallace, our VP of marketing, we have directors meetings on a regular basis, and I will tell you, you have to have patience in this industry right now, because a plan on Friday, on Monday has been canceled, and and you shift to just make sure that, again, the staff, the associates, the customers are all in a good spot with us. But ultimately, I think, what, this is retail. We've been all doing it for a long time. The seasons are the seasons. The events are the events. We've got a handle on this. No one's got a secret sauce on a calendar right now of an event that's coming up. So we can shift easily, and I think it's about being prepared with plan A and plan B, and sometimes you plan C on the weekend when you're supposed to be enjoying family time.
Plan C indeed. And a really great insight, Chris. For everybody watching, just want to do a quick reminder. If you do have questions for Chris and myself, please feel free to put those in the comments, and we'll take those up before the end of this conversation. And so Chris, in terms of, and you've given some really great insight there, what should we be thinking about? What should retailers, small and large, really be, ready to take away with?
Yeah, I'll tell you, since my career at Walmart and over here, it rings true. So sometimes guys like me will have an ego that we know it all, and when you really want to get a pulse of your environment, speak to the store managers, speak to the dealers, speak to the people on the sales floor. It's easy for me to come up with this great promotion, but if it can't be executed at store level, it doesn't matter what a good idea it might be in your head. So have a network of dealers and associates and people internally that you can bounce ideas off of, and make sure you flush them out, because sometimes it's not as good when you put it into practice. So I think if I can give anyone any input, is to make sure they have a good network to be able to bounce ideas off of.
I think that's definitely great advice, Chris.
So the other piece, sorry to cut you off. I really, I love that about my team. My team challenges me on a daily basis. I will come up with promotions, and if you have a team that's just yes and will go and execute, you've got the wrong team. You need folks that will challenge your ideas, challenge you to be better, and then go away and execute a great plan.
No, absolutely. I think that's fantastic. Whether it's your team or your partners or whoever it is you're working with, you need that integrity and honesty in terms of giving you feedback on there. Now, here's a weird question that has nothing to do with it's coming. What is your favorite product on homehardware.ca and why?
Yeah, so I bought this. It's going to sound silly, but it's just a gazebo, but it's the most exciting gazebo I've ever purchased. It starts out at 9 feet by 10 feet, and it expands to an 18-foot long gazebo. Right. And why I love it so much was once you expand it that distance, I've now added a projector in the gazebo with a projector screen at the end, and it becomes a great evening out watching Netflix or some movies on Prime.
It's movie night.
Yeah, it becomes movie night, and unfortunately, it's also become COVID-25 because I eat a lot of popcorn. So it's not a great routine, but it's a fun one. And then the other piece, which is really exciting, there's this oven, a pizza oven that's right on our homepage today that I haven't purchased, but I definitely have an intrigue on purchasing that one. And you can attach it to your barbecue, or it becomes this solo piece, and it looks very good.
Now that actually sounds really cool to me.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, I want to thank you so much for your time and joining this fireside chat. I think this is really what the point of this stream is. You're out there on the front line, and we, all play different roles here. You've shared so much. Given where things are, I think that's a lot of the advice you've given people could be gaining from. Thanks again for joining us. Please do follow us on social and certainly visit us at geekspeakcommerce.com. The conversation is there. If you do feel that you could contribute to this dialogue, feel free to reach out to us. We're more than glad to have you. And that's it. Chris, any parting words? Where can we find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I've actually got off of most social media, but LinkedIn is definitely the go-to. Actually, so many people comment that they can reach me on LinkedIn faster than email or anything else. So definitely reach out to me there. Thanks for letting me be a part of this, Isaac. I wish I was part of the first episode, but being number 2, I'll take that.
Absolutely. You're the first guest, so we definitely appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thanks, bud.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.